날 위해 그려준 말 눈부족한 말 말이 안 되는 말이란 걸 몰라 네가 없이 어떻게 행복해 I want nobody nobody but you I want nobody nobody but you 난 다른 사람은 싫어 네가 아니면 싫어 I want nobody 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 but you I want nobody nobody but you 난 다른 사람은 싫어 네가 아니면 싫어.
Good evening, everybody. How are we? Good? Excellent. So, thank God it's Monday. Welcome to another installment of TGIM. Sadly, this will be our last TGIM, but just wanted to mention a few things before we introduce our guest star for the evening. So, first of all, we know that we're all here due to the very big heart that one man had a few decades ago, Mark Hughes, our beloved Mark Hughes. He's inspired so many since that year, and he still does to this day. And I think we can all say that there are many of us that bleed green. So these TGIM sessions have been designed to motivate, inspire, and fire us all up as distributors with Herbalife. Yes, we all bleed green, but I definitely can say that the young gentleman this evening very much bleeds green. So I'm talking about none other than Mr. Paul Yoon. Thanks, Paul, for joining us tonight. Thanks for being our host. So I'm just going to, would help if I unmuted you, which I'm doing right now. So a couple of things. Paul's been with Herbalife for just over 6 years, is that right?
6 years today, actually, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Presenting on your anniversary. Yeah, so Paul bleeds green very much so, and really his role within Herbalife is to help as many distributors to grow as quickly as possible, and this is very much his passion. So without further ado, I shall hand over the reins to you, Paul.
Unbelievable. Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, everybody. Thanks for being with me right now. Guys, first thing I want to say is actually a question. What the heck am I doing here, right? Crackles called me maybe 2 months ago now, and he said, "Hey, we've got this TGIM thing happening, and you should do that." I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Crackles, that's not what I do, right? But if any of you have spoken to Craig Morrison, you cannot say no to the guy, right? He does not take no for an answer. And I came up with all of the excuses in the world. Craig, this is not what I do, and blah, blah, blah. And I hung up the phone, and it's probably to do with a lot of things that he said to me. The fact that I couldn't do it, it's not something I do, was the reason why I had to do it. Then I speak to Andrew, and he drops the love bomb on me. Again, if you've ever spoken to Andrew, you just feel a lot of love, and you just can't say no to these gentlemen. So I'm here. And in the introduction, Andrew said inspiration, motivation, and all that. If you expect that from me, I'm very sad to tell you, you're probably not going to get that. But what we will do tonight is, I guess, me talking to you about my life. And this is certainly not a company thing either. You know what I mean? Even though I've got the most of the learnings through the company that I work for currently, I'm really going to limit anything from the company, because I'm going to assume that you've heard a lot of that stuff too. And it's really going to be, it's not really about me either though. It's not really about me. It's not really about you. It's just a chat, all of us together on this call, figuring a couple of things out together. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. So thank you, Craig. Thank you, Andrew, for being the gentleman you are, where you don't take no for an answer. And I feel really uncomfortable right now, but I guess that's I love the feeling of uncomfortableness though. So that's why I'm saying I think I'm going to have a lot of fun, and hope you have a little bit of fun with me as well. First thing that I'm going to do is I better share my screen. Make sure that the right screen shows so that you don't see anything not so good. Let's try this. All right, guys. So I like to learn things, by the way, and I was at this digital marketing conference, and one of the presenters there said, you know, before you speak to anybody, chances are they've Googled you. And she asked me to, or she asked all of us to Google ourselves. So I put Paul Yoon into the thing, into Google. And this gentleman I saw for the first time in my life. And just in case you Googled me, this guy is not me. I'm pretty sure some of you out there probably think he looks a lot like me. And I must be frank with you, I think so too. He's some poet from America. So just in case you thought that you're going to get some poetic stuff from me this evening, you're not. English is my second language. Poetry is something that you're not going to get from me. But what you're going to get is this, right? This is me. Again, I think we look very much alike, which is funny. But so this is me. And today what I like to do is just walk through with you. You know, we all have interesting lives. And I think my life has been pretty interesting. I've gone through a massive transformation as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. I've had really, really great mentors along the way. My parents being two of great mentors, and plenty more. So I'd like to share with you some of the stuff that really clarified up here, you know, what I'm about, and also in here too, what I want, the set of values that I truly believe in. And I put huge purpose in there. It's not that big, by the way. It's huge in comparison to what I thought my purpose was, which was basically zero. So a little bit of purpose I feel that I have is huge for me. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. Before I get into it, I want to also firstly let you know a bit of an evaluation of my life. Firstly, when I was born, I had a great life, scored. Going into my childhood, adolescence was some bad time for me, even though I loved it. And looking back, it was bad time for me. Going into early adulthood, I started to recover a little bit. And here's me now, midlife or start of midlife, still haven't fully recovered. But, you know, in a few years, when I go into mature adulthood and then late adulthood, I certainly want to be all the way up there. And I guess that's what I want to talk to you about, especially in this region where there was a lot of downfall and a lot of learning. I want to talk to you about today. So what I did, what I've learned, or is it supposed to be what I've learned? English is my second language, and again, I'm not a poetry guy, but I'm not a strong English guy either. What I've learned or learnt, and how it continues to improve me. This is the quote that I want to get started with. I read a lot so I can live more than one life in more than one place. That doesn't fully translate to my life because I don't actually read a lot, but I watch a lot of stuff, listen to a lot of stuff. You know, I listen to a lot of rap too, you know, and I live the life of the rapper, you know, because I know that, you know, time is limited, and for me to only live my life is pretty sad. So sometimes I swear I'm a African American living in Brooklyn, you know, yelling out NYC, you know, and all that sort of stuff. I really like to immerse myself into other people's stories. You know, I swear I'm Steve Jobs sometimes too. You know, I read about him and watch his interviews, and I think, wow, I'm Steve Jobs. So I live a lot of lives, and that's one of the reasons why I really love TGIM. And I'm really sad that I'm the last person on there, but I really enjoyed it because I got to live other people's lives. And again, I don't know if this is showing because of the video. Let me just move this one over here. Time is limited, so I want to live more. So I read a lot of stuff. I watch a lot of stuff. And what I try and do is figure out the parts of people's lives. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be somebody else or anything like that, but I certainly want to figure out if some of the components of their lives are applicable to me, and if so, I like to learn a lot from that and apply it to my life. So I guess that's what we're here to do. Just I guess, living my life for just a little bit so that you can figure out what you want to take away from my life that might be applicable for you. And this is, one of the first things that I figured out, that I am the only person who can make me better, right? I know a lot of you on this call probably agree with me here. And I figured this out pretty early in my life. So hopefully I've got a few things that I can share with you tonight. So I want to go chronologically, guys. I want to go right from where I was born and to where I am currently. And I will be watching the clock because I tend to ramble a little bit. And if I run out of time, I'm going to cut it short and give you the stuff. But if I have enough time, I'm going to tell you a lot of the stories in my life that I think you're going to find very interesting. First thing that I'm going to say is I was made in Korea. And for those of you that know me, well, you see my face now, so you know that I'm not really an Aussie. So I was made in Korea, designed in New Zealand, and I like to say that I was assembled in Australia, and through that, through living in different cultures, I've learned a lot too. I'm a hybrid of all sorts of stuff because I like to absorb people's energy, absorb people's experiences and knowledge. So I'm not really a Korean or a Kiwi or an Aussie, but somewhere in between somewhere. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been fortunate to get a lot of stuff and experience a lot of stuff that maybe a lot of the people have not had the opportunity to experience. So I want to start with this comment. I was born into the poorest rich family in Korea. Like, we weren't wealthy. We certainly weren't poor. We were very well off, but somewhere in between. And this brought a very interesting side of me that I probably still have to this day. My dad grew up in one of the poorest families in the world, and he literally is a genius. He got into a university in Korea. Depending on how your score is in school, the universities that you get into are dictated by that. And I guess 1 in about 1,000 students would get into the university that my dad got into. And coming from a very, very poor family, he didn't have the resources to help him out. But he still is a genius, I believe, one of the smartest men on earth. And so he brought that into my life, the poor side of things. And my mum, she grew up in one of the wealthiest families in the region that she was growing up in. Sadly, before I was born, the family was bankrupt, so I didn't really get a chance to enjoy the luxurious life. But from that, my mum had always, and her family, everybody, they could be broke, but you'll see them and they have a lot of class. Doesn't matter what they're wearing. They might be wearing cheapest clothes, but it felt like it was expensive clothing that they're wearing, as an example. So again, I was fortunate enough to have been born into a family that I could see the contrast. Like when I'm meeting my dad's family, I could feel the difference. By the way, my dad's family is probably more well off now than my family on my mum's side. But still to this day, when my auntie, my dad's sister, walks into a shop, nobody pays any attention. My mum's sister walk into a shop, staff are all over them, right? So they still have that feeling. So I was able to get both side of the spectrum, and I guess that made me who I am, the poorest rich guy in Australia, And my rich auntie asked me, I was probably about 6, 7, maybe 8 years old. she asked me, Paul, you know, when you're rich like me, when you're a little older, what do you want to do? And being the young guy I was, and probably influenced by the North Korean dictator, I told my auntie, I want to build a big statue of myself. That's quite literally what I said to my auntie. I want a big statue of myself when I've got a lot of money. And at the time, Korea was going through a real bad case of depression. And you know, everybody was losing jobs and all the families were struggling and all that sort of stuff. And this is what my auntie said. If you've got the power to do that, why don't you create jobs for people? Again, I was like 7, 8 maximum. I didn't really know what that meant back then, but I turned around to my auntie and I said, okay, before I die, I want to create 200 jobs, you know, and that's been my thing. And I've created probably 10 jobs so far, so I've got a lot more jobs to go, but being a young boy that don't really know anything, creating 200 jobs became a thing. And ever since, I don't know how many times I said this. I probably said this at least 4,000 times, you know. It's just been my thing. And I said to myself and to people that I meet, once I create 200 jobs, I think I will be able to retire and feel good about myself, knowing that I made an impact on 200 families. And the rich auntie who asked me the question, who told me to create jobs, she owns a lot of clinics. Her husband started off as a psychologist, and they've got dozens of clinics all around Korea now. And I came across this photo. It's not a photo of her clinic actually, but it's an empty clinic, and it reminded me of my auntie's clinics. I think she wanted to create lots of jobs, so they created a lot of clinics. I've never seen patients. I've been to a handful of the clinics. No patients, but a whole lot of staff. So I know that she's happy, created all these jobs, all this staff with no patients. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my auntie, doing a good job of creating jobs in Korea. So chronologically, I'm going through this. So I guess I would have been about 10 years old now. And I want to tell you a story that my mum, or tell you a story of my mum telling me a couple of things. And this is the first thing that I learned from her. Being a young boy, I had one chewing gum left in my pocket. And I asked my mum, hey mum, I've got one left. My friend asked me for one chewing gum. Because I only had the one left, I didn't give it to him, was what I said to my mum. And here's what she said to me. Next time that happens, give the last chewing gum, just buy another pack, right? The personal side of me, I believe my mentor, my first ever mentor, my mum, has really shaped how I feel most of the time, you know. And this is something that if you were to meet my mum, you would know that this is something that she would say to you too. Everything about her is about giving back. Like, she's not the richest person in the world, but she's forever doing everything for everybody. Not a lot for me, by the way, but she's forever been doing a lot of stuff for other people. And I guess she has also taught me the true value of stuff. You know, when you have one chewing gum left, that does not necessarily mean that the one chewing gum becomes more of value just because I've got one left, right? Buy some more, and not only the one chewing gum you've given to somebody, but you've got more chewing gums for yourself now. You know what I mean? So a lot of these cool qualities that my mum has have started to rub off on me a little bit. And if you were to ask me, you know, what was the biggest teaching that your mum has ever given to you, Paul? This is it, right? She said, if you feel like somebody's lying to you, she said that I'm probably going to be wrong. And even if I'm right, that there will be a good reason for the lie that I'm not going to understand. I know this is a bit too deep in the quite early in this piece, but this has been one of the eye openers that I keep true to my heart when I speak to people, when I meet people, and all of that. You know, we often judge people when we think that, oh, this person's lying, or this person doesn't like me, and all these things started to happen. start to happen. And me, quite literally, I just tell myself, look, if I feel like James, who's staring at my face right now on the Zoom call, doesn't really like me, I tell myself I'm probably wrong, right? And even if I'm right, even if James doesn't really like me, I'm sure there's a good reason for it I'm not going to understand. That's quite literally what I tell myself. And when my staff start when my staff, I feel, are lying to me, that's what I say to myself as well. I'm probably wrong, right? So one of the things that my mom has taught me, key things, is the ability to trust people and the world. And Najib's on this call, watching me right now. And, you know, he's told me before, Paul, you trust people too much. You're a bit naive, too gullible. But that's exactly where I want to be. You know, I really don't want to lose faith in people or the world. And I guess another big thing that I've learned from my mom is the ability to forgive, but more importantly, to forget. It's a really interesting concept because, you know, we all give and take, right? Giving is crap, taking is cool, in the give and take scenario. And if we just keep forgiving, but don't forget, remember the word get is take. So I tell myself, if I'm gonna forgive somebody, I need to forget about it. If I can't forget about it, I probably shouldn't forgive, right? So forgive and get. As much as you give, you need to get. And forgetting, I think, is where truly the magic happens, and it sets you free. And I learned that from my mum as well. And a quick story I want to tell you here is that one of my best friends, he lives in Korea. If I called him right now and I said, hey, man, I need you in Sydney over the weekend, he would probably get on a plane and come here. He feels like he owes his life to me. And the reason why he feels that is because I've been able to forgive him and also forget about what he did. He stole money from me. And again, I told myself, man, there's got to be a reason why why he ended up stealing money from me that I'm not going to understand the reasoning of. And because I was able to forgive him like that, forget about straight away, and you know, like he feels like he owes his life to me because I was there when he was at his lowest and had to steal money from somebody, and I was lucky enough to be chosen to be stolen from. And because I was able to forgive him and forget him, not only has he paid back all the money, but now I've got a really, really good friend. Probably would take a bullet for me, quite literally too. So these are some of the qualities that I learned from my mum that I wanted to share with you. They've been good at keeping me sane. I come across a lot of things, and I can honestly tell you that without this feeling, I would have struggled. Then this happened, quite sad, really sad actually. My mom and my dad ended up splitting up. And my mom and my dad, coming from such different backgrounds, probably played a big role into that. Regardless, they split. I guess I'm about 12, 13 by now. And this is what I learned, you know, quite early in my life. I've always been happy. I've always been optimistic, and even when my parents are splitting, I wasn't too sad about it. Now I realize that I was sad, and I was trying to cover the emotions, and I've been lying to myself all of these years. I'm starting to realize that now, you know, like my mind is closer to my heart than ever before. So being a young guy so hurt from my mum and dad splitting up, I probably didn't want to immerse myself in that. And that's why I lied to myself and believed myself. Now that I started to understand a little bit, but due to the lie, I picked up a really cool quality that, you know, we often hear, is a cup full or a cup half full or a cup half empty, right? And what I learned to see is not only is the cup half full, you know, when you go to get a glass of water to drink, you don't fill it right up to the top. So the cup that's half full is actually nearly full. Do you know what I mean? So I learned to see things in a different light. And I've met people who, you know, when the cup is half full, they think that it's overflowing. I've met plenty of people that are like that, and they seem to be the happiest people on earth, which I'm still working on. I'm not quite there, but in terms of optimism, I think I'm in the top 20%, and that's why I can keep happy through challenging times. And I you know, thankfully, not thankfully, I don't want that to happen, but that happened. Thankfully, I overcame that tragedy pretty quickly, and again, it made me who I am. So I'm about 13 years old by then. This is when I'm about, I guess, 15, around 15, 16. For those of you that don't know who this is a Bunsen burner. And again, I want to tell you a story. You know, if I asked you, and if I told you that a high school student in New Zealand lit a cigarette off a Bunsen burner in a chemistry class, would you believe me? What if I told you that was me? Right? It's I'm going to blur the screen quickly. It's one of those things that I'm not so proud about. Yeah, what? Chemistry class, 16 years of age, light a cigarette off a Bunsen burner. You know, I was the teachers at my high school loved me, by the way. I was always respectful, and I was always hanging around with the guys who were challenged to make friends and liked video games a bit too much and collected a lot of stuff that other school kids didn't like. You know, I was their hero. I was the person who would go to them, get my arms around them. I'd always be nice to them. You know, if anybody picked on them, I'd go, you know, use all my resources to bash the bullies. And I had a lot of respect for teachers. So teachers actually liked me, but you know, I don't know about you, but I don't know about the Australian high schools, but in New Zealand, we had a thing called detention. And every Friday after school, you know, the bad kids or the kids that did bad things would stay back for about half an hour to an hour and used to literally write out the school's rules of conduct. It was like a big piece of paper with lots of words on it, 2 columns with all sorts of stuff, you know, not to bring guns and all that sort of stuff. And it got to a point, because I was at detention, doesn't matter what, you know, the amount of detentions that I had, if I didn't graduate from high school yet, I'd still be in detention every Friday. So I was there quite literally every Friday. I got to a point I could recite the whole rules of conduct. It's a page full of stuff off by heart. I didn't even have to look at the piece, because what we had to do was copy that onto a fresh sheet of paper before we could leave. And I got to a point I was filling out the rules of conduct in class before I got to detention, and I'll sit there and once a couple of kids have filled out their thing, I'll pull out my thing that's pre-filled and give it to the teacher, and I'd leave. But so I come from a high school period where, you know, I wasn't so good. I wasn't good. I was respectful, but I do want to make that clear. I was respectful. I was nice, but I wasn't good. Then I guess I'm about 18 here. I don't know in Australia if you guys have mock exams or not. In my last year of high school, you know, I did a mock exam of the final exam that gets you either into university or not. I got the second lowest score in the high school. And I'm going to talk to you about that a little later. A key learning that when I look back, you know, I knew why all of these things, I know now why all of these things were happening. So I got the second lowest, and the mock exam happened about 6 months before the actual exam happened. And I had to learn 3 years worth of stuff within 6 months. And here I learned, you know, I can do things if I really commit to myself. You know, I was literally going to school. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I was in class, obviously hearing about what's being taught, but I was studying this I was studying the stuff from a couple of years ago, just catching up really quickly. Then I would come home, study up until say 2 a.m. You know, I'd study to 2 a.m., get up at 7 o'clock, study some more, go back to school. And you know, in the 6 months, I guess I learned everything that happened in the last 3 years. And this happened. It was called bursary, our main exam. And out of 5 subjects, if I can get a total combined score of 250, oh no, 6 subjects actually. 6 subjects, total combined score of 250. I get a B bursary, which gets me into a lot of the universities. And through dedicating myself, I got 250 points exactly. The average works out to be still less than 50%, but no problem. It was real easy in New Zealand, but one of the luckiest guys in the world, I tell myself, and 250, like right there. If I got 1 point less, I would have got a C. So I walked away with a B bursary, but sadly didn't meet the attendance requirements of my high school, and I was told that I couldn't graduate. So again, it sort of tells you the person that I was back in high school. I don't know if you know anybody who don't meet attendance requirements, but you know, I haven't met anybody, but I didn't meet the attendance requirements of my high school. But again, I was very lucky, and because my teachers loved me, I'm gonna say they loved me. Maybe they didn't, but they really, really did like me. They gave me an exception, so I did end up graduating from high school with an exception from my principal, who I respected a lot, and he respected me for what I was able to achieve in the last year of high school, and just started to turn my life around. And I'd be kidding to you, and I'd be lying to you if I said, hey, my life turned around and my university days were different. They were not. It was filled with parties. Took me 5 years to finish a 3-year degree. I was an underground rapper. Again, it's probably hard to see that, but rap was the only thing that I was concerned about. And I got pretty good, by the way. I was playlisted on one of the biggest hip hop stations in Auckland. I had gigs nearly every weekend. Did a whole lot of stuff. You know, I was in front of a big crowd called Hip Hop Summit. That was one of the biggest hip hop gigs. It's like a weekend thing, and I got a gig there. I did pretty good. You know, first ever I guess Māori on Māori TV, right? Māori is I know, I'm sure you know what Māori is. Māori TV, first ever Asian on Māori TV, unbelievable. Anyway, that was all I was concerned about, nothing else. But here's one thing that I learned about goal setting. You know, all my life people said, write down your goals and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, what a lame bunch of things that I'm being told. What do you mean write down your goals, it becomes true? The first ever time that I actually wrote something down as my goal was to do with my rapping career, right? I actually wrote a couple of things down. I wanted to be featured in this mixtape that was going around, one of the biggest mixtapes in Auckland at the time. I wanted to work with this biggest producer. His name is P Money. I didn't get a gig with him, but I got to collaborate with one of the rappers who are on his label. So I wrote a few things down to do with rap, and I actually nearly got there and got to there for a lot of the things. And that's when I realized maybe it's not so lame, but still, my life didn't start to turn around. And I started to understand what I'm supposed to do a little more, still lost like millions of other kids that are out there. But compared to where I came from in my high school days, I started to realize a couple of things. Again, you know, you might laugh at me, but listening to rap got me a lot of perspective, a lot of contrast. You know, if Jay-Z needed to, sell drugs and, get refused by 17 companies and had to start something of his own and got to where he is, I didn't have to go none of that. I'm living in New Zealand, one of the most comfortable countries to live in, and I've got nothing to complain about. And all of these things, I've got more opportunities than half of these people that I listen to. I started to get perspective. I started to get perspective. And then this happened. After the university, obviously, I was still a spoiled brat. My studies finished in November. I was still sitting around in April after about 5-6 months, not doing anything. And I asked my second mentor that I want to talk to you about, my dad, hey, Dad, what should I do? You know, I've always been a good student. I've never asked for advice, but every time I asked for advice, if somebody gave it to me, I would do it. You know, I think I was really, really proud. So as long as I asked the question, if somebody told me what to do, I'd do it to the T. And because I asked my dad, I was going to do whatever he was going to say. And this is what he said to me. He said, you need to call a company like Amway because you're lost right now. You need to ask them, hey, I need a job at the call center, and just sell yourself and get a job there. And the reason for that was, he said, there you'll get to speak to hundreds of different people, maybe thousands. Some of them will be executives for big companies. Some of them will be a stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home mom, business owners. All of these, I didn't even know what Amway was then, but my dad said, call them, you need a job, get a job at the call center, talk to a lot of people, then figure yourself out in terms of what you want to do. So I called them. They were actually looking for a bilingual speaker who could speak Korean and English. So I got that job pretty easily. Again, I'm very lucky. All of these, a lot of the things that happened in my life, when I look back, it's just nearly unbelievable. But it's certainly believable because that's how it played out for me. But so I got that job, and I learned this, that you had to actually work. I learned that. You know, like that was the first eye-opening thing, that I had to work. I couldn't just sit back and not do anything, that I had to work, that I became one of many. I'm the only child. So I was always one of one, but I became one of many. And that I learned quickly that intelligence didn't matter and that my parents couldn't help. The reality shocked me. I know looking back, the list of stuff that I only had to actually work, one of many, but it quite literally shocked me. And this is the point I started to change. This is the point I started to change. And yeah, transformation started to happen because I figured out I had to do something. I can't just sit back and let my life be. It was up to me, and I'm going to make it work. And so, because I knew that I was going to be running over. So it's 42 minutes past 8. This is the reason why I just brought the ending forward without telling you too many stories. If there's more time, I'm going to tell you more stories. But if not, I want to give you the stuff that changed my life quite literally. And I'm not the most successful person on earth. Don't get me wrong, right? I'm probably the last person you should be listening to me, but listening to in terms of your, I guess, guidance for your life. But at least little old me, here are some of the stuff that has been really, really life-changing for me. And I'm going to get past this as quickly as possible so that I can tell you a bit more stories after reality shocked me and when I first got my job. So the 3 things that changed my life, and I'm not saying this is what you need to learn from me, guys. This is just my life. It may be of value, maybe not. Sense of entitlement. I want to talk to you about that. You're very smart. You just don't apply yourself. You know, this is a statement that I've heard all through my life. You're very smart. You just don't apply yourself. I want to talk to you about that. And the third point I want to talk to you about is Jay-Z is still one of my heroes. This is a quote that he said, I didn't work this hard so that people can tell me I haven't changed. You know, once I started to change, when I went back to where I was, I started to meet the friends that I used to be really, really close with, who I still love. And it hurt me it really, really hurt me when they said, Paul, man, you've changed. It really hurt me and made me emotional, and I was so sad about that statement. But now that I look back, no, that was a really, really good comment. So I want to talk to you about that as well. First, sense of entitlement. Let me move this around just in case you can't see that. The greatest gift from my parents was a sense of entitlement. And that might surprise you, but I didn't have to do anything. You know, everything was given to me. I was, I guess, born with the millennial disease. You might know what that is. I was always told that I was good at everything, and I was speaking to my mum just before, and she again said, I'm good at everything. And so the greatest gift that my parents gave me is a sense of entitlement. Not because that's helped me, guys, but because I could figure out for myself that's the worst thing in the world. Somebody could have told me sense of entitlement is bad for you, Paul, and I wouldn't have listened. I can guarantee that. But because they gave me the sense of entitlement, I could decide for myself from when I started to work. That's been life-changing for me. So I have no sense of entitlement, anything on whatsoever. And this is another thing that I realized. Again, I hope I have some time to tell you some stories on how I ended up figuring this out. But lack of entitlement, which everybody needs, I believe this is the stuff that we all need. Lack of entitlement. This is the most important thing, right? That we are owed nothing, that we deserve nothing. This is where we need to be at, guys, I believe. But it comes with full ownership of everything, even feelings, right? Not only, oh, you know, I should be given this or should be, you know, doing that. There's all of that stuff, but even feelings. My mum told me a split second before I get angry that I make that decision. On the back of lack of entitlement, I now don't get angry. I sometimes do, by the way, but I tell myself I'm gonna get angry and become angry, and because of that reason, I'm hardly ever angry or frustrated or sad, right? Because I own that. Total full ownership of me, everything that I do and even everything that I feel. And when there is no expectation, a lot of gratitude comes, right? Because I don't expect my job, the fact that I have a job is very thankful for me. And it's real crazy because the things that people complain about are the things that you wish for. You know, people complain about their husband, their wife. Hold on. Didn't you want that when you were younger? They complain about their jobs. They complain about the, you know, call Optus and wait 30 minutes to get through their call center. Hold on, did you not want a phone? Hold on, did you not want a job? You're complaining about that now. So I started to realize and I started to become a person through having no expectations at all. That led to being thankful for everything. And I realized that only when you're thankful for things, you can actually help somebody. And I don't know if about you, when you receive help, it feels good for a split second, but when you give something, you get the more enjoyment. And through having no expectations, through gratitude, I could then help people, which makes me much more happier than receiving help. It's the funniest thing, guys. When I receive help, I'm thankful, but it doesn't make me happy. It makes me feel worse, actually. But when I give something, it could be the smallest thing. You know, like I could be giving direction to somebody. How no effort, it requires no effort to give. Tell somebody, hey, somebody asks you, hey, how do I get to this cafe? Oh, you walk over there. You know, I feel real happy about that as soon as they start walking away. It's something as little as that. So when you can help, give some, and if it's a big thing that you can give, it actually makes you happier. And this is one of the biggest learnings that I got, and it's to do with sense of entitlement. If I wake up in the morning, have some sense of entitlement, I would just smash myself. I'd go into my bathroom and just tell myself what I'm grateful for, and just get rid of that real quick, because that's been the killer for me in a negative way. So the statement, Paul, you're smart, but you just don't apply yourself. Again, that's been the worst thing for me ever. The worst thing in my life. And what's surprising is that this statement came as a compliment to me. Do you know what I mean? My parents used to say this a lot. They're almost complimenting, hey, you're smart. But the way that they say it is, you're smart, you just don't apply yourself. And you know, all my life, I started to tell myself the same thing, and I used to tell other people the same thing. And because of wrong praise was given to me. I love my parents, but this is the biggest, this is the worst thing they've done to me. Because I believe that, I was almost doing things to make sure that I don't apply myself. I just never apply myself at anything because I'm smart and because I can remain smart. So now when I praise anybody, including staff, I don't praise them for what they do well, because sometimes it's more damaging than not saying anything. Do you know what I mean? So what I like to do now, based off of this learning, is I like to praise their behavior. You know, I'll say something like, "Hey, I've been watching you organize this event, and I really like the way you make other people around you feel good, and you create a sense of teamwork and get everybody working together. Like, as soon as again, you don't have to learn this from me, but this is my learning. As soon as I started to praise the behavior, I couldn't go wrong. You know, if I say to somebody, you've done a great job with something, and if they didn't, I don't know if they did a great job or not. Say that they didn't and fluked the result, I've just told them, you can fluke it in life. That's how I feel. I'm a little bit weird in my mind. So now I go to praising and complimenting the behavior, because I can't go wrong then. So, and then I made a decision. If you speak to me enough, you would have heard me say, I'm not the smartest in the world, a lot. I always say that. I'm one of the dumbest people on earth, but I work hard, right? And before I can say that, I need to work hard, you know, otherwise I'll be lying. And I'm going to do some time check. I can't tell you the story, but to cut a long story short, you know, I used to turn up, and I often do now. I work all night at home. I used to turn up. I'll be the first person at work, and I'd be the last person to leave work after the cleaners. I've been just working the hardest. At the call center, I didn't, right? But, you know, when the call's finished, you go home. But as soon as I became the marketing assistant for a company that I was working for, I'm there 7:30 latest, right? I'm there till 9 o'clock without fail. So I was working the hardest out of everybody. And I told myself I'm not smart, so that's why I need to work hard. And that's been one of the life-changing things for me. And this is something that I want to share with you as well. My mentor, my dad, this is one of the things that he said to me. And he's an incredible dude, by the way. He's got the best perspective in life. He's a real strange guy. Once he needed ice. He needed ice. We were walking on the street and he needed ice for something. I can't remember what the ice was needed for. He walks into McDonald's and orders a large Coke with lots of ice in it, but with no Coke. That's quite literally how he spoke to the girl. And the girl's like, "What? You want a large Coke but no Coke?" And he said, "Yeah, large Coke with lots of ice in it. Put lots of ice in it first, just no Coke." Right? He's a real weird guy, but he's got the best perspective. And this is one of the things that he taught me, you know. Don't try to work smarter, he said. Work hard, then work harder some more, and you'll naturally end up working smarter. And this has been a thing for me that I've had since my life started to change. I just knew I just needed to work hard. I don't need to work smart. I'm going to be the dumbest person that works the hardest. And I ended up working smart as well, you know. Not that dumb after all, but still I tell myself I'm pretty dumb. I just work. And he also said, look, don't try to do what you love. You need to love what you do. It's not hard, he said. Just love what you do. Not hard. And that's been one of the key things for me. So the second key thing is being told that, Paul, you're smart. You just don't apply yourself. And the last key thing that I got when my life started to change is that it's okay to change. You know, the quote that Jay-Z said, "I didn't work this hard so that people can tell me I'm exactly the same." even though I know that a lot of us will struggle with this, we literally want people that love us to tell us, you've changed, man. I don't even know who you are anymore. All of these harsh things that we don't want to hear, we almost want to hear. Certainly me, I want to hear that, but I still want to be the same person inside to make sure to let them know that I love them still, and nothing's really changed except I'm just improving. And I go back there, go back to the friends, and I try my best to help them without vomiting too much of the stuff that I want to share. At the end of the day, I want to feel normal. So over time, I want to tell them that we can all change as well. So that's been one of the biggest learnings for me. And I was caught up with keeping up with my bad reputation. The smart guy, a smart ass guy that really didn't care, didn't do much, expected everything in the world. Because my friends and even my relatives remember me as somebody that's like that. Remember, I moved away from Korea, so a lot of my relatives are still in Korea, which means that they haven't gotten a lot of opportunities to catch up with me. So when I meet them, they feel the same to me, but quite often for them, I don't feel the same. And again, it was so hard for me, but I learned to deal with that. And I enjoy it now, I like being told that I've changed because I know that I've changed for the better. And I want to share this with you too. Sometimes, I'm not going to give you advice. For me, when my environment changed, it became possible for me to change. I was hanging around the same people in the same sort of crowd, living in Wellington when I was growing up. When I moved to Auckland, things started to change for me because I was in a new environment. There was not a guy there's not a guy that knows what I would do in a certain situation. I became a little better in Auckland, and after getting a job in Auckland and all of that sort of stuff, when I got an opportunity to move to Sydney, and by the time I moved to Sydney, I had a little bit of change in me. That's when I started to work. That's when I knew that I actually had to work, that I wasn't the only person in the world. I was one of many. And because of that, I used to really work hard, by the way. I was promoted so many times in the short time that I was at the call center, ended up managing a team of 12 at about 24, 25. And I had ladies and guys in my team that were twice my age, more than twice my age, and I was managing them. You know what I mean? So by the time I moved to Sydney, I started to figure this life thing out a little more. And because I got out of Auckland, in Sydney, I could really change because there was nobody that I knew intimately who were going to judge me or expect me to do things in a certain way, right? I've covered this, but yeah, don't feel bad, right? When people say to you, hey, you've changed, don't feel bad. I certainly don't feel bad. As long as you know who you are, as long as you still love them for who they are, because I believe the only thing that we need to be loyal to is the future me, future us. Certainly for me, the only thing or only person, don't take me the wrong way, I'm one of the most loyal people in the world. I'm Korean. I was born loyal. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that far more so than the past me, I want to be loyal to the future me. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. You don't necessarily need to live up to the expectations of your old you. And I put this photo in here to do a time check. And so I'm going to wrap up, tell you some stories later. So as just a quick recap, guys, because this is, I guess, the biggest thing for me, sense of entitlement. Seriously, I can speak about this because I had the biggest sense of entitlement. Don't have any, it frees you up, and all that sort of stuff. Don't kid yourself that you're smart. Working hard is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And working hard is something that's keeping me happy right now. I work the most number of hours in my team, and I don't want that to change. The day that changes, the day I become a hypocrite. You know what I mean? And you want people, well, I certainly want people to tell me that I've changed, and that's a good thing. And so I want to leave you with this. I want to ask you a couple of things. Safety over needs, people say that you need warmth, clothing, and shelter, whatever that may be. Please put safety over that. Like, who wants food when you're not safe, right? Or who wants shelter when you're not safe? So I ask you to bring safety to people that are around you, especially the people that you care about. That's something that I've learned to do. I used to bring fear to people because that gets people to do what I like. Najib's on this call, and the best way for me to get what I want from my team or get from Najib is to freak him out. But now I give him safety, and within safety, let him figure it out, and in a subtle way, drive him. But I give safety first because I believe every human being deserves that. Nobody wants to be in a fearful state. Change yourself, change the world. Guys, again, a very lame statement, but I certainly try to change myself. That's what I try to do. And if that ends up changing the world even just a little bit, I'm going to go to, in my grave, a very happy person. I know compliments sound good, but I want to just ask you, when you get compliments, when people tell you nice stuff, yes, take it on board, but I guess my message is, I don't kid myself. I don't take myself so seriously to the point when people tell me that I'm good, that I actually believe that I'm good. I want to say that to you because that frees you up. That really frees me up. Again, I don't want to give you advices. It really freed me up because when I don't think that I'm that good, the criticisms are easy to swallow. When the criticisms come, Paul, you're not doing the right way, it's easy for me to say, no problem, let me get better, or no problem, let me fix that, because I don't think I'm good. So when something not good happens, and I'm really easy to take that. And again, I work harder than most people. So again, if you're working very hard, those things become easy to take on. If you're not working hard, then you're going to blame yourself. I'm trying my best. If something's not right, I'm happy about that because I can make it better. I take on the feedback. Complainers complain to complainers, right? Yeah, don't complain. Like I said, we all wish for the things that we're complaining about. I complain a lot. I'm not saying that I'm the perfect example. I complain a lot, but I try not to, whatever it is, until I'm living in Pakistan or some other country, locked up in a basement, chained across my neck, being fed, I don't know, no food, dirty water. Like, until I'm there, when I'm like that, I'm going to complain about my life. Right now, I've got one of the best lives in the world. I'm never going to complain about anything, or try not to anyway. Contrast your life, get clear perspective is a thing that I tell myself. I watch interviews of people that don't have many years left in their life. Contrast your life to that if you need to. I do that. Things that bother me becomes so small when I compare myself to either those situations that are overseas or people that are in a much worse a situation than I am. I become so thankful, and I am thankful for everything that I've got, even the things that I don't have, by the way. And because of that, I visualize and walk through my life. Najib, who is on this call, who asked me a very thought-provoking question. He said to me, if you got an opportunity to write a book, what would the title be? And I said, My Life Backwards. So I want to start with just before I die and almost write my life story backwards as if it has happened already, but it hasn't yet. So I want to start with lying there in my bed, surrounded by the people that I love, you know, having lived a really cool life only because I was grateful for everything that I received, so on and so forth. And because I walked through my life until I die many, many times, you know, I am very clear on what I should be happy for and what I should be sad for. And there's not a lot of things that that's supposed to be sad in my life. So and I tell myself I don't have much time left. You know, the last 5 years went so fast, and based on what I've learned from many people that I speak to, the time only speeds up, and I'm real scared about that. So, you know, I don't want a day that where I'm sad, and so I decide for myself I'm not going to complain. What I said before, right? I'm going to be grateful so that I can help people because that's going to make me happier. So, guys, that is it, right? Next time or when we meet, if you're interested in any of my stories, I'll tell you all of that. And there's plenty more where that came from. So, Andrew, thank you again for the opportunity. Crackles, thank you for the call. Again, I didn't want to do this because this is something that I don't do, but I'm glad I did it now because I hate the feeling, oh, I shouldn't do this feeling. It makes me want to do it more. So thanks, guys, for listening as well. So back to you,
Pleasure.
Andrew.
It's a pleasure, Paul. I guess I just wanted to say on behalf of everybody, thank you, yes, for listening to Crackles and myself. It's been a pleasure having you on. And I guess there's probably just one very quick question, and it's been asked in the messages while you've been presenting, mate. But who would you need to speak to see whether we could get you performing on the tab team singing as well?
Oh, man.
I think there's a few requests, mate. So just be mindful of that.
No problem. No problem. I've got 15 songs ready to go just in case I'm thrown up. I am a Korean. We spend a lot of time in karaoke rooms. Remember that. And yeah, at the party, you'll see me on the dance floor. You always see me on the D floor. I'm sure. You'll see
Good
that.
tip. And look, I mean, we saw the dance clip that JT put on for the promo clip as well. So. So thank you, Paul. Everyone, I just wanted to remind you, as I've said, this is our last TGIM session that we will be holding. Me as the host, I really want to put a lot more of my time and resources into helping many more people to get happier and healthier. I know you can understand that completely, everyone. But what I did want to make quite clear is that all of the previous recordings will remain, and obviously tonight will be put into the TGIM group for further use, for further motivation. So yeah, just wanted you all to know that. So I'm going to how do we unmute? I'm going to unmute everyone. Trying. You would think I would have figured it out by now, wouldn't you? Anyway, thank you everybody for dialing in, and thank you for your commitment to all the previous sessions as well. And thank you, Paul. Great. Thanks everyone. See you later.